Hello, my name is Osha. I like talking about US presidents. Today is the last day of Black History Month, and for 2026, today being February the 28th. Of course, I want to just talk about the influence of Black Americans on American culture, and of course through entertainment, sports, and the arts. When we talk about black artists. Of course, everybody knows whether it's Snoop Dogg in representing hip hop or hip hop producers like Dr. Dre. And of course, if we're talking about R&B, we all know Marvin Gaye, Aretha Franklin. We're talking about pop, Michael Jackson, there's Whitney Houston, you know, there's Michael Jackson, there's Prince, there's Michael Jackson. Well, I'm intentionally repeating Michael Jackson because Michael Jackson is one of the most phenomenal artists in history, right? In the history of entertainment. Of course, and of course, in terms of sports, we all know Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, you know, Simone Biles. So, Black Americans are known globally to represent, uh, to be phenomenal, right? In entertainment and sports, when it comes to uh, uh, the big screen, in the movies, we know Bill Cosby, we know Eddie Murphy, uh, Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, you know, Chris Rock. So the influence of Black Americans, is phenomenal. It's pervasive. They represent American culture, and proof of this is if you've been overseas, you will see whether it's in Europe, whether it's in Africa. I remember when I went to school in Italy, there was a course I took. I took a lecture in intellectual property, intellectual property uh, cultural in culture or something like that. I can't remember specifically, but it was an intellectual property um, lecture, and it was taught by a distinguished Harvard Law professor, Professor William Terry Fisher. He's a uh, he's a colossus in when it comes to intellectual property, and he's a Harvard Law School professor. In the lecture, I remember he was being proud. He said proudly that being in Milan is like being in a city in California because he said uh, there was American entertainment. Only that just about America, all the music you hear is American music. American when you're watching the movies, when they keep playing reruns of old American movies, right? And guess the music he was talking about. He was talking about black artists, right? Black entertainers, even though he didn't use the word black, because I lived there and I saw it. Incidentally, while I was there, uh, while I was in Italy, in Milan, Jay-Z and Beyonce came from America to perform in Milan. So yeah, I had a roommate who was from Rome. He was an Italian from Rome, and he was studying music. And his ambition was to become a hip hop producer. And so through him, I saw the love that Italians, have for currently have for Black American hip hop. So um, there's no need for me to go on and on discussing the influence of blacks in entertainment and in sports, right? Today we even have billionaires in black billionaires through entertainment. Whether it was Kanye West, I don't know if Forbes still ranks him as a billionaire, or Jay Z, right? And we also have people like Michael Jordan, who's who's a billionaire, LeBron James, and these are sportsmen, these are entertainers. So with that being said, I want to talk about how entertainment and sports, serves as a double-edged sword for Black Americans, um, right? Because there's this disproportionate representation and influence of Black Americans in sports and in entertainment. Something bizarre that I found out, right, when I came to America was um, almost every Black American that I came across that I will the whom that I got to know, whether I was working with them, right, whether I was working with them in the kitchen or in a store, they could all sing. And I'm not somebody who is given to stereotypes or tropes, but it was something that I observed and which was bizarre, right? I'm from Nigeria, and before you can find somebody who has a musical voice, a recording voice, you'd have to look far. But something I came across in America was amongst Black Americans. It just looked like everybody had a recording artist's voice. And I'm not trying to perpetrate, a stereotype, but I thought this was very bizarre. And of course, when we emphasize, uh, the representation of Black people in entertainment and sports, um, something that we can't dismiss is how it detracts from the humanity of Black people, right? From the humanity of Black people. Uh, at no given time can you have people, representation in the NBA. That's professionals in the NBA that are what, maybe more than 2,000, right? 2,000 per season or whatever uh, per cohort or what however um, however the classification is, right? The representation uh, is negligible compared to the population of Black Americans. Black Americans probably constitutes about 40 million, um, 40 million people within the United States population, right? And if you have people in the NBA or NFL, these can constitute more than 5,000 in total, right? If you will notice a pattern of where it appears people are being directed. I mean, it wouldn't make sense. I mean, let me not say there's a pattern, but it wouldn't make sense for uh, Black Americans, right? The demographics of Black Americans to all gravitate and looking for careers in entertainment or in sports, right? Because they can only, the industry can only support a negligible amount of people. And this is consistent with the way entertainment has always been in the world, right? The human beings, humanity's always, civilization has always appreciated the arts, right? So we see one of the reasons why we study the Romans and the Greeks is because of the great artists they left us, whether it's Homer amongst, the Greeks or Virgil, amongst uh, the the Romans, right? And then when we move down into European culture, we know Shakespeare, William Shakespeare, amongst the English, right? Leonardo da Vinci during the Renaissance for the Italians, and Michelangelo, and it goes on, right? So we've always appreciated artists, right? But they represent uh, that their representation is negligible within uh, the society, within the nation, right? And that's the way it's supposed to be. You see, because the appreciation of the arts, entertainment, and sports uh, has a function of harmonizing society, right? It's a civilizing tool. So when we talk about civilizations, we don't talk about one person or isolation an individual. It's a collective activity. It serves a collective, right? It's a uh, collectivization, a form of collective, a tool of collectivization, right? A tool of socialization, right? So you see, even today, when we want to appreciate sports, we go to a stadium, right, to watch, whether it's soccer or football. We go to an arena. We want to watch a boxing match. We go into an arena, right? So this is how we appreciate our artists, right? It helps, its civilization, its society. We participated together to appreciate, even though it's a single artist. When we go and watch performing artists, we go to a stadium, whether it's Rihanna, we go to somewhere large, a large arena, and we all appreciate that artist, right? It would not be useful, right? Arts, entertainment, sports wouldn't be a useful tool if you sat down alone in your room, isolation, and then you play your basketball all in isolation. Well, you can train in isolation so you can eventually perform for your audience, right? It's something that an audience appreciates. That this is how it's always been, right? Whether it was gladiators in the Colosseum in Rome, uh, you know, entertaining the Roman citizenry. This is how, or the populace in London entertaining Shakespeare's theater. This has always been the tool, the function of artistry and sports, right? To be able to civilize, for civilization, for population, for people to gather and to enjoy. So it's unfortunate that there's this so by necessity, right? It necessitates that for black people to be able to earn a living, right? They can't all be focused on entertainment. They have to be educated. They have to go into get trades and things like that, right? So they have to go and just do things to be able to uh, earn a living and can't be focused on entertainment and sports. Um, Now, when I said it's a double-edged sword, right? Entertainment serves as a double-edged sword for Black people. We often do not address the other aspect, right? Um, we don't address the function of Black entertainment during slavery, right? Um, During slavery, two um, two aspects two aspects of Black humanity were exploited. One, their physical labor, right? Their physical prowess, their strength. Of course, that was used for field work, right? Farming, field work. That was very important. Their physicality. That was very important. But often we ignore another aspect, right? That something else that slave owners exploited of the Africans that were held as chattel was the ability to perform entertainment, minstrelsy. So something else that the slaves existed for was to entertain slave masters, right? So minstrelsy. So this was something unfortunate. This was another form of exploitation. So it's ironic that those two elements, the physicality the physicality of Black people and the ability to entertain, they still exist today, right? Even though Blacks are now able to earn money. But again, remember, this is a negligible amount of people. Not all Black people are making billions like Jay-Z from entertainment. Not all Black people are making billions like Michael Jordan, right? Not all black people can be in the NBA or can be recording artists, right? Or can be actors like Will Smith, right? It doesn't matter that a black person is even used to represent the voice of God, like an oracle. That's Morgan Freeman. But not all people, right? Morgan Freeman doesn't even constitute 0.00001% of the black population, but he's the one who gets paid all the time, and he doesn't give all his money. He's it's impossible for him to feed all black people from his earnings, right? So when I say that it's a double-edged sword, right? That blacks create magic from entertainment. There's a redeeming aspect of humanity, that what was used to enslave one, was turned around, right? And that's why I'm calling this the black magic, right? Black magic. It's magical the way Black Americans have been able to turn around things that were used to dehumanize them and create excellence in it, whether it's in entertainment. I remember the first time a classmate of mine in Alabama sang for me, right? Because, like I said, people having, recording artists' voices, like Jennifer Hudson's voice. Look, it's rare. I hardly came across them when I was growing up in Nigeria. Hardly. But now it's no big deal to me, because in America, if you go, you're sitting at a bus stop, right? The homeless person, the homeless Black American person at a bus stop has a recording artist's voice, right? When I first came in Alabama, she sang for me over the phone. She was telling me, and I asked her to sing. I was stunned. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I could not believe I thought her voice was as good as Whitney Houston's. And I was like, why are you in school? That you have this kind of voice? Why don't you go and be an artist? Everybody's got that voice. That's what she told me in America. Everybody. It was the proper thing for her to do was to go to school. So I don't know why it is that we still have to study the influence of slavery. What happened? How were blacks being? What was the mode of reproduction during slavery? Why is it that, look, virtually every black person in America, Black American person, has a recording artist's voice? That's unusual. Why? If we're being honest, blacks don't want to be stereotyped, so they're not going to tell you that. They're not going to. You'd have to get close to them to know it. So we do American Idol and things like that on TV and make it seem like, well, that the singing voice of Black Americans is exceptional. That it's out. No, that it's that if they get one uh, artist amongst Black Americans, right, that person is exceptional within the Black community. That's not the case. That's not the case. You will see it's almost very common. Right? It's like normative for Black Americans in America to have a recording artist's voice. That's very unusual. Just that's it's unusual. So we still have to study what happened, during slavery. Um, Americans have to study their history, understand their history really well. But that's an aside. Um, well, my purpose today was to talk again about the magic that Black Americans have created in things that were meant to degrade them, exploit them, and they now represent the culture of America, right? So Black Americans represent the culture of America. They've created what's the culture of America. But the black population does not make money from this. Only a few people can make money from this. So Yes, they're marketed as the culture of America, right? And it's, you see Black Americans, uh, they are, they've served in the military as well. They continue to serve in the military from the beginning, from the revolution till today. And I think um, that's one of the uh, complicated things that you will notice also about Black Americans. Black Americans love the nation, right? The nation of the ancestors, that enslaved their ancestors. You will notice that, right? They don't see anywhere else, for the most part, as their nation. Many of us new Americans of African descent who are naturalized citizens who love America is because America was good to us, right? We came as strangers and America was good to us. That's so we have a reason to love America, right? Because it was good to us. If it was terrible to us, no, we wouldn't. Up until the time of my swatting, it was only after I became an American citizen that I started to experience hell. But when I came as a stranger in America, as an F1 student, as an international student, before anything, Americans were very hospitable to me. They treated me so well. That's why I guess it's another reason why I hate the notion of strangers in America, foreigners being mistreated, because I was once a foreigner in this country as a student and I was not mistreated. I was treated well everywhere I went to. Now I'm an American citizen. So if I'd been mistreated before I became a citizen, I'm sure I would have gotten up, packed my bags, and left. In fact, I'm sure there are many citizens who are mistreated, naturalized citizens, who, when they're mistreated, they pack their bags and they get up and leave. Now, Black Americans cannot do that, right? They have not done that. I don't know if they cannot do that, but they have not done that, right? So they've stayed. They now represent the culture of America. So, uh, in honor of Black History Month, this was something that I had to acknowledge the that Black Americans um, have come to represent American culture, right? They're the ambassadors of American culture. They've defined American culture through entertainment, through sports, through the arts, right? Through the style, fashion, style. It's now Black, their stamp is on it, their imprimatur, right? Imprimatur, or however you pronounce it. Um, it's really early. I just woke up, so, huh. All right. So the stamp is on American culture, American style, what it is to be American in terms of style and fashion and culture. They're the ambassadors again, right? Um, and of course, that's magic. My name's Olorotimi Osha. I'll keep you posted. Thank you.